As her eyes closed, her whole life flashed before her. Was that it? Will it end here? But she was supposed to win this fight. It was supposed to be an easy one. When her eyes closed completely, Angir released the chokehold and, still breathing heavily, looked into the face of the woman he just a few moments ago called his companion. Why did she attack him unprovoked? What would happen to him if she would win that fight? Why would she do that, you may ask? Well, to understand that, we have to go all the way back to year 158, to the hamlet of Entrance Belted, a place built by the human civilization of the notion of paddles. Minat was a daughter of Galir Fedlos, the lady of the Entrance Belted at the time, and Kuro Colorput, a bard and a scribe, who was visiting the hamlet. The fruit of their meeting was a little girl. Unfortunately, the happy time of Galir with her little daughter didn't last too long. 1 year later, she was kidnapped by a goblin named Olngo Dungeon Passes and brought to Swept Menest at Goblin Dark Fortress, a scary place that no sane humans wants to visit in their lifetime, let me tell you that. Her mother, mad at what happened, threw herself into war and fighting. In the coming years, she fought in countless battles, hoping that one day she might find her lost daughter. Her only support was her spouse, Kuro, whom she did see from time to time. In year 161, Galir gave birth to Minat's little sister, Astri. But in the next year, Gelder's worst nightmare happened again. Astri was also kidnapped, and what is even more surprising, she was also brought to Swept Menest. Two sisters lived in the same place and never met each other. Most likely they didn't even know they were sisters. But this is the story of Minat, not Astri or Geldir. Going back to the little girl. In Swept Menest, she had no choice other than living there and learning the customs of goblins. She resisted them for a really long time, but after 10 years, in year 169, she became a member of their civilization and started working in the fishery. She tasted her first bit of combat soon after. She was a part of an assault conducted by the Goblin civilization, a group of dwarven mercenaries. And she must have liked the adrenaline that this way of living brought, because in the year 171, she gave up being fisher worker and started being a scout for the Torment of Diving, her goblin civilization. During that time, she fought a few times, but important thing in Minat's life happened when she had murdered a dwarf living in Swept Menest. Living in a goblin civilization was no easy thing for anyone. You could lose your position and even your life so easily. After that, she knew that she couldn't stay in the Dark Fortress. In the early summer of year 172, she formed her false identity, Mones Landgorge, and left her home to go to Flysiege, a town of the human civilization named the True Unions. She stayed there for many years, undercover, forming false friendships and gathering and sending information. In the meantime, her sister Astri died in the year 182. She was murdered by a dwarf named Zephan. She never met Minat in her life, even though they lived so close to each other for almost a decade. Her mother also didn't find peace. She continued her fighting, her effort to find her children. Her battles could be counted in dozens. Eventually, she also married Kuro in the year 166, but only 3 years later. A giant attacked Entrance Belted. Geldir fought bravely, but she was struck down by the beast. The only person of the family who was able to live peacefully was Minat's father, Kuro. Interestingly though, he was also a member of 2 goblin civilizations during his lifetime, but he traveled there on his own, to train under a master bard and adapted to those places. But he also visited a human town named Catchbend, where he held multiple wrestling competitions. He got interested in wrestling after he had to fight 2 different tiger men 2 years in a row. Finally, in the year 237, Kuro died in Catchbend of old age. And so came the year 250, when Minat, or Mones, how she was called in the Fly Siege, met Angir's cold soul, the close rhythm of frames, and agreed to travel with him. He looked naive, but brave, so Minat thought he will be an easy kill, far from any curious eyes. Well, now we know that she was wrong. The story of Minat is a sad one, yes. It is a story showing how big world events can impact small lives of its inhabitants. And Realms of Destiny are full of different stories. Happy, sad, inspiring, unbelievable, but all of them curious and interesting if you have patience to discover them. We have to remember that the story of Minat didn't end yet. Angir showed her mercy, something she didn't know her whole life. How will Minat's life change because of that? Only time can tell. Perhaps soon we'll meet again to share another story about Minat or about the realms of destiny.